So you know how there's like those financial Call of Duty videos? I've been getting into them lately, and you know what? I wanted to make one myself, but I wanted to do a twist on it. I actually wanted to talk about what not to do with your money and actually use an example that's recently popped up in my life. Because a really close friend of mine's homie has just slimed his financial life, and I think there's something to learn from it. Obviously not going to use names and get into all the specifics, but in general, I think the best way to learn is from failure. If you don't want to fail yourself, maybe we can learn from someone else's failure. So some real quick context. The guy I'm talking about is my friend's buddy. My friend being, we'll call him T, and his buddy being L. I'll just call him L. I think that fits. And whereas I've gone my separate ways from L, T and L still hang out with each other. But what T has been telling me is that this guy is just terrible with his money. He's been telling me this for years. I kind of saw it myself when we graduated college, and L, he'd been attending with us, but he had dropped out. And so he hits us up and he says, I'm going to come and see you guys, right? He shows up in this like really nice car, and he's got like the Gucci fit on. And I think I straight up asked him, yo man, where'd you get the car? And he said,
oh yeah, I rented it.
I'm like, that's not your car?
No, I just wanted to show up in style.
Come to find out that he was just really trying to impress some of the graduating girls, and he didn't pick up any. Complete waste of money, frivolous spending. T's told me that this is just the norm for L. And unfortunately, it's recently gotten just really, really bad. See, T doesn't live in the States right now. He actually volunteered overseas as an English teacher, where he'd been living for some years, and now he's finally out. He's exploring around. I got to go see him last September, which was really awesome. But so has L, and this latest trip is where really stuff has hit the hay. T tells L, like 6 months in advance, you should really save up maybe around like 5 months worth of savings. Because even though the trip was planned to be 3 months, and it is really cheap in a developing country, like you wouldn't believe how cheap it is over there, it's still better to be safe than sorry, right? And L says, yeah, of course. Maybe like 2 weeks before, T reaches back out and he's like, yo man, so the trip's coming up, you got the ticket and everything, you have enough money saved up. And L says,
I only got $600.
Which, as you could probably imagine, no, is not gonna cover 3 months. Nor is it gonna pay for the ticket. He had no ticket either. So what had happened? Apparently, it was a medical emergency. Frankly speaking, who knows? But T, since he'd done all this planning for it, he wanted him over, he paid for a one-way ticket. So L lands down and just immediately, stuff is off. As it turns out, the guy had quit both of his jobs to go on this trip. But T really wants to see this dude. So, as rocky as a start as it is, how bad could it get, right? Turns out pretty bad. Maybe like a month into the trip, they rent a motorcycle which L crashes. It's not totaled, but it lands on the side of the bike that has an exhaust. So it's really scraped up. And I'll give credit to L here. He does offer to take responsibility, and pay for the damages, which comes out to around $300 or so. Well, as it turns out, as L opens up his bank account, he's only got around like $360 left. And he's kind of stressing about it. So T decides, you know what, I had some responsibility in this too. Let's just split the bill. A few weeks later, L is at
negative $220.
You might be asking, how is that even possible? I was even asking the same thing. I was shocked when I saw somebody had negative $2 in their checking account. This is minus hundreds of dollars. And L's explanation for it is,
oh yeah, I have a car payment.
T's like, well, how much is that?
Oh, $500 a month.
And you don't have any jobs to pay for it?
No. My parents will pick it up here and there.
And sure enough, he does get back to like zero, but guy is completely out of money. And the dude's got no work visa. He can't even legitimately earn money over there. What ends up happening is his mom and his brother are wiring $20 a day to him. And he's blowing it all. Eventually, it got so bad that his own mom was like, "You gotta stop. You can't be selfish like this." And he blocked his mom. He was just trying to give advice. You got no money to be spending right now. Why are you spending it? I guess they've patched stuff up, but stuff is bad. And I just got an update that his phone has just stopped working. It was already cracked and on its last legs, but the dude doesn't even have a phone to contact anybody other than T's. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering right now, well, why not have a sit down with this guy? Why doesn't he just have a heart to heart with L and tell him what he's doing isn't good? Well, the problem with that is it's already happened. They have talked. They've been talking for months now. L knows how other people see his spending, how T sees it, how his own mom sees it. And while he says he wants to change, clearly he doesn't want to. Actions speak louder than words. It really took this trip to make T realize the guy isn't going to change. And that all of his talk that he would become better is just talk. Becoming a babysitter for weeks has been the last straw. Thankfully, L mostly sleeps in the hotel now, but even then, it's tough. L will do stuff like go out at 3 a.m. or whenever T is asleep to buy things. You shouldn't have to constantly supervise anybody. And it should just be common sense that if you're away from home with no money, no ticket to get back home, that you shouldn't blow everything you get every day on cigarettes, pizza, and even a gym membership. That's no joke. He even ordered boxing lessons, which he's already missed one of. It's crazy. But absolute worst of all, I was told L has taken out half the money that was in his 401k retirement account. Ooh. The dude is sliming more than it just his financial life here. He's sliming his own retirement. It is such a disaster that I think there's genuine lessons to be learned from it. This isn't going to be financial advice. Don't sue me if this stuff goes wrong. But the first major takeaway from this is have yourself an emergency fund. I'll give Ella a little slack. Something did come up medical-wise. Apparently. I think this entire situation would have been averted if Elle had just had an emergency fund. Maybe 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up. Have a high-yield savings account with Marcus or any number of high-yield savings accounts out there. Even $1,000 in one helps. But you do want around 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in the case something does come up. Because medical emergencies, whether you like it or not, can just drag your finances down. So it's really good to have something on the side that is there for an emergency and is even growing in the meantime. It'll just give you that extra bit of security instead of what happened here, which from the sounds of it really did stress Elle out. Heck, forget just covering the medical stuff. This could have covered just life in general. Another really good point about an emergency fund is it's there for you in case an emergency does come up, like you lose your job, or both of them like Elle did. In the between time from getting another source of income, whether that's a job or working for himself, he could have been relying on this emergency fund. But sadly, no. In T's own words, that kind of money would get blown on Gucci, which leads us to the second piece of advice. This one's coming directly from T. I wrote it down because I think it's that good. Stop spending money that you don't have and stop spending on things you don't need. You'll live your whole life in debt otherwise. You know, one of the silliest things about this story that I didn't even mention earlier, I did mention the car payment being $500 a month without Elle having a job, and that should say a lot. But another thing is, Elle wants to move overseas and graduate college there. So what's really the purpose of having a car in America that you're consistently making payments for? It might be just time to sell that thing. Obviously, he doesn't have the money. He has to get it from his family. I've certainly been guilty of that. But you're eventually going to have to realize you can't rely on your parents forever. Even if there's an inheritance, eventually it'll just come down to your financial literacy, how good you are with spending and keeping money. If you can't stop spending money that you don't have and spending on things you don't need, you're gonna live your life in debt. You're gonna make your life like an actual living hell. And you'll have no one else to blame but yourself. If you don't have the money for something, if you're going to be hurting later on, if you get that nice shiny thing, don't buy it. Hopefully you have some kind of reluctance. And if you don't and you realize, dang, I'm hurting after this, start to pick up on why that is. Start being a little bit more frugal. Whatever you make in a month, don't spend more than that. And if there's no other way around it, look into what you can change. I know people see this as a balancing act where, you only live once, so you want to enjoy your life and being young and getting the stuff that you really want instead of just sacrifice. I get it. I think both can be extremes where you're either overspending or being overly frugal. Ideally, you'd find that sweet spot in the middle. But if you are going to be spending money that you simply don't have, stop spending it. The third piece of advice I have is if you're in a hole, do not keep digging. If you're in a bad spot, you can't get yourself out doing the same thing that you're doing. You need to recognize what's happening and do something different to change your circumstances. It's like that Einstein quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. If something isn't working out for you and stuff sucks, it might be time to change up your tactics. Go at something a different way. I'll use YouTube as an example here. Say that you release a series of videos about Slopcoin, and the later videos in the series have been doing worse and worse. You're not reaching the same height that first Slopcoin video did. The solution to this isn't necessarily going to be to make a really good follow-up Slopcoin video. Your thoughts shouldn't be, I just gotta get lucky again, or keep polishing this format until it hits. It's probably time to make something else. Again, try something different. Instead of keeping on digging, doing the same old thing, try something else. And you might find there's way more options available to you or opportunities than you ever thought you'd have. I think a huge issue isn't when people are digging and not knowing it, but when they're comfortable digging. It's when stuff hasn't hit the hay for them because they've got some kind of crutch, so they keep digging. That's when there's a big problem. Kind of similar to what I was saying in the last bit. Some people just count on others and the blessings they've got in the moment instead of making any moves towards a better foundation or some higher ground. Trust me, you can't count on digging forever propped up with some crutch. It's gonna hurt eventually. One day, you'll realize just how down in the hole you've dug yourself, and you'll be losing your soul. Okay, probably not that, but your spirits aren't going to be high realizing just how low you've made stuff for yourself, when you could have taken the time to realize the predicament you're in and climb up. Hey, I've certainly been guilty of digging holes for myself, and the first step is always realizing what you're in, then wanting to change. Even if it's painful, or it hurts my pride to admit I've been making a mistake for a while. It's always better in the long run to stop and switch stuff up, believe me. The fourth piece of advice I have is do not, I repeat, do not try to take your money out of retirement accounts like a 401k or a Roth IRA. Please, guys, use the emergency funds in your high yield savings account. Use cash, use credit cards, take out a loan. Just do anything else you can think of before you try taking money out early from your retirement accounts. I even think this applies to brokerage accounts, to be honest. The power of compounding that you will lose will actually haunt you. Your earning potential and chance to have your money grow exponentially just about tanks when you take the money out that would have caused that growth. And while, yeah, you could technically recover investing more money in and still have a solid retirement, it's an absolutely terrible move you never want to make unless it's the final resort. That's why it's so painful to me hearing L took the 401k money out while he's just in his mid-20s. And not just like a tiny bit either. He took half of it out. That's too much for me. Please do not do this, guys. And finally, my last piece of advice is honestly, don't forget to pray. I don't actually mean this as a joke or a DEFCON 1 option either. I'm being serious. Whether your life is completely cooked or whether things are going well for you, there is power in your prayers. I personally think they're really important in accomplishing goals or making the changes you want to make in your life. Imagine putting aside your ego and your hole digging and just telling God, I don't know what I'm doing. I need help and wisdom or some kind of better path laid out for me. I could do a whole video on this subject, but I'll keep it short and say prayer is a small, great step to improving things. Even if you don't believe in the Lord, prayer genuinely does have an effect on your mind. It can be comforting. It makes you want to change how you're acting. It primes you to want to improve. To me, it's the real deal. And I won't lie, I may have said a prayer for El that he stops sliming his financial life. Dude needs all the help he can get at this point. We'll see what happens, but I hope this video was at least helpful to you guys. I don't know, maybe you've heard worse financial stories than this one. But I do think that these failures, as hard as they can be to listen to, are kind of important to learn from. It's like T said himself, sometimes we need people like this to show everyone else what not to do. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, stay safe out there.